Hello and welcome to CVR English. You're watching Big Story. I'm Idris, and today we are going to focus on transformation of India. My dear friends and my dear viewers, we will take a look at the visuals first.
All right, you can make an argument कि base था ये भाई उसके बाद you keep growing. तो becoming the third largest economy is no longer a talking point. It is something that is in the realm of the doable within a short period of time. All right, you can make an argument कि base था ये भाई उसके बाद you keep growing. तो becoming the third largest economy is no longer a talking point. It is something that is in the realm of the doable within a short period of time. All right, you can make an argument.
Morgan Stanley's recent analyst report has swiftly become a central discourse in academic and financial spheres, vividly illustrating through a series of chats the extensive transformation of India since 2013. This period notably coincides with a seismic shift in the country's political landscape as the reins of the union government transitioned from UPA to NDA. The study enumerates 10 notable shifts, including supply-side policy reforms, the formalization of the economy, the implementation of the Real Estate Act, digitalizing social transfers, the enactment of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, flexible inflation targeting, augmented focus on foreign direct investment, India's defining 401k moment, government support for corporate profits, and a multi-layer high MNC sentiment.
Schemes like PLI and friend shoring, to name a few. The most important contributor is, however, the priority on infrastructure development. The government of India has made very high allocations in this sector since the inception of COVID.
Of the government towards stakeholder inputs is immense. Whatever inputs are coming, they are being immediately factored into in the form of policy, and that is why the policy is showing results.
The digitization of the economy is not about convenience alone. It's about efficiency, productivity, formalization, and financial inclusion. So between the corporate sector's balance sheet, capital investments, which was sluggish last decade because of balance sheet issues, because of that picking up, and because of digital transformation, India's average growth, which was estimated to be 6% by World Bank, IMF, etc., we believe that these two additional factors will contribute anywhere between 0.5 to 0.8% to our trend growth, taking it closer to 7% rather than 6%. So India's digital transformation, which is even better than countries with much higher per capita income, is actually binding the nation into a more efficient and formal economic machinery. And that is a transformation. Luckily for us, it has just begun. Much more remains to happen, such as open network digital commerce.
By non-intrusive voluntary compliance, I mean that government is encouraging voluntary compliance from the taxpayer itself. How do I reach that position? That the taxpayer himself comes forth and pays his adequate tax.
Schemes like PLI and friend shoring, to name a few. The most important contributor, each, however, the priority.
While critics have been quick to label this assessment as selective, it is hard to dispute the comprehensive nature of the reforms undertaken in the last 9 years. Admittedly, certain reforms remain a work in progress, yet government's commitment to progress is palpable. We propose to elaborate on 9 reform measures that India has systematically implemented across the various sectors, thereby fortifying the nation's economic resilience and elevating its stature as an economy full of promise.
Guest of honor, Mr. Vivek Johri, onto the stage. May I request Mr. Amit Kamath, Vice Chairman, FFI and convener, started the ceremony this evening with the lighting of the traditional lamp. It gives me great pleasure now to request Mr. Amit Kamath to kindly welcome
our executive committee members and friends. Locations in India, employing over 1 million people and controlling over 90% of India's trade associations, the government authorities of 60 years has been through triumphs and turbulences which the federal.
A very good evening. Welcome, sir. Honorable Minister of Commerce.
That India will be at least a $35 trillion economy when we celebrate 100 years of independence. Our population is no more a bane, it is a boon. What used to be once upon a time be considered as a problem is today an opportunity.
warm and hearty welcome to the Honorable Minister, sir. May I request Mr. Shinde to kindly do us the honors of welcoming our esteemed guest of honor, Mr. Vivek Johri, Chairman, CBIC.
This year we'll have nearly 100 billion digital financial payment transactions through ULIPs. Could anybody in the world have imagined? We'll have more transactions than the US, than Europe, than China, any other country. Or probably all of them combined also. And at the lowest cost.
The first one on the list is the introduction of GST. The implementation of GST in 2017 has marked a significant transformation in the Indian economy, streamlining the indirect taxation system under the unifying principle of one nation, one market, one tax. This transformation has digitalized India's economy, leading to a standardized, seamless flow of information and making tax collection more effective. GST has brought about transportation efficiently, gains which have streamlined the process of moving goods across the state lines, reduced logistical complexities, and thereby facilitating trade.
Our digital payments are at the lowest cost. Exports have risen from 500 billion barely 2 years ago to 776 billion in the year gone by. 55% growth in 2 years.
May I request you to kindly do us the honors of releasing the coffee table book of FFI. We are unveiling the coffee table book of FFI. and e-Fiata Bill of Lading, which will be unveiled here today. I request the Honourable Minister, sir, to please do us the honours. This is a soft launch.
Ease of doing business extends far beyond merely facilitating the entry of enterprises in it. Crucially, encompasses the liberalization of capital departure to ensure a well-functioning, efficient market system. It is absolutely necessary to establish a mechanism that promotes the unhindered exit of capital, insolvency and bankruptcy. Regulations serve primarily to enable this capital flow.
Center of global finance for nearly 9 decades. That's worth talking about. It's worth understanding. It's worth learning from. And this is the story of Morgan Stanley.
On September 16th, 1935, the investment bank Morgan Stanley was open for business. The firm moved into new offices at number 2 Wall Street.
Each person had his own desk and a wooden chair. If you wanted to get a cushion, you bought it. That was bare bones.
Mr. Morgan's phrase of first-class business in a first-class way was the mantra of the firm.
The first year in business was absolutely astonishing. They handled more than $1 billion in underwriting and captured 1/4 of the business on Wall Street.
After World War II, new capital raised through investment banks fueled.
Since 2014, there has been a consistent and firm approach towards revoking outmoded laws, resulting in an effective and thorough overhaul of the country's legal framework. The government, guided by a clear and resolute vision, has committed to eliminate legislative impediments to economic expansion and social evolution.
The post-war boom.
We did a large debt and equity offering for GM, and they used the proceeds of that to build their next generation of car.
But the rest of the world is always changing. So our job as leaders is always to try and anticipate what the world will look like and change in advance of it.
Steve Jobs came in his trademark black turtleneck and said, "Jack, do you remember when they invented the wheel? The personal computer will be to this century what the wheel has been to civilization." And at the end of that meeting, we basically had a handshake on doing the initial public offering for Apple Computer.
Apple's just one of many examples of the firm working with entrepreneurs who were really building interesting and unique companies that were pioneers in their industry.
I will never forget sitting in the room with the Equity Capital Commitment Committee to discuss whether we should proceed with the Netscape IPO or not. People were so surprised that we were bringing a business like this.
That was the first of this generation of technology companies that went public.
Since 2014, the Indian government has adopted a trust-based governance approach, driving ease of living and boosting the business environment. In her 23-24 budget speech, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced significant strides towards this goal. Over 39,000 compliances have been slashed and more than 3,400 legal provisions decriminalized, demonstrating a relentless drive to streamline regulations and foster a friendlier business landscape.
Public, where demand was wildly outstripping supply of stock, and people knew this was going to change the world, and off we went.
This morning's business news: Morgan Stanley and Dean Witter Discover have announced a $10 billion deal that would create the world's largest securities firm.
If Morgan Stanley was going to continue to be on the course that it was, it needed to get bigger.
We thought there was a real opportunity to put these two firms together. We did not have retail, and here was a chance to have a huge business.
Virtually everybody accepted that this was a game-changing merger, that we had a competitive advantage now in every business. Our focus was to be the preeminent financial service firm in the world.
Every generation of Morgan Stanley's had its challenges.
Cornerstone of this shift is Jan Vishwas Bill 2022. This bill targets decriminalization and rationalization of minor offences across 42 different acts. The effect are twofold. 19 of these acts affect the ease of living, while remaining 23 affect the ease of doing business, with about 186 provisions decriminalizing or rationalizing imprisonment clauses. This bill is a significant step towards diminishing bureaucratic red tape.
फ्रेंड, आज भारत वर्तमान के साथ ही अगले 25 वर्षों के लक्ष्य को लेकर नीतियां बना रहा है, निर्णय ले रहा है। इस कालखंड में भारत ने हाई ग्रोथ के वेलफेयर और वेलनेस की सैचुरेशन के लक्ष्य रखा है। ग्रोथ का ये कालखंड ग्रीन भी होगा, क्लीन भी होगा, सस्टेनेबल भी होगा, रिलायबल भी होगा। ग्लोबल गुड के लिए बड़े कमिटमेंट्स करने और उन पर खरा उतरने की परंपरा को जारी रखते हुए हमने 2070 तक नेट जीरो का टारगेट भी रखा है। दुनिया की 70% आबादी वाला भारत भले ही ग्लोबल
This initiative checks lower level corruption, preventing the misuse of laws like Section 59 of the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006, often unfairly used to harass businesses. By eliminating irrelevant or archaic criminal provisions, the government curtails the potential for their misapplication.
कार्बन एमिशन में 5%, ओनली 5% कंट्रीब्यूट करता हो, लेकिन क्लाइमेट चेंज से निपटने के लिए हमारी प्रतिबद्धता 100% है। इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस और कोalition फॉर डिजास्टर रेजिलिएंट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फॉर क्लाइमेट एडेप्शन जैसे इनिशिएटिव इसका प्रमाण है। बीते वर्षों के प्रयासों का नतीजा है कि आज हमारे एनर्जी मिक्स का 40% हिस्सा नॉन फोसिल सोर्सेज से आ रहा है। भारत ने पेरिस में जो ऐलान किया था वो हम टारगेट से 9 साल पहले ही प्राप्त कर चुके हैं। फ्रेंड्स, इन प्रयासों के बीच हमें यह भी मानना होगा कि हमारी लाइफस्टाइल भी क्लाइमेट के लिए बड़ी चुनौती है। थ्रो अवे कल्चर और कंज्यूमरिज्म ने क्लाइमेट
The decriminalization is also a boon for businesses by reducing their compliance burden and lowering enforcement costs for the government. This move positions India as a more attractive destination for investment, propelling economic growth, job creation, and the government's trust-based approach in a sense paves the way for an India that is easier to live in and better to do business with. In a decisive effort to ensure equitable access to fundamental necessities, the Government of India, as revealed in the Economic Survey 2021, provided the bare necessities to every Indian. The Bare Necessities Index, that's BNI, comprised of a holistic compilation of 26 indicators, is framed around 5 essential dimensions: water, sanitation, housing, microenvironment, and other vital services. The index serves as a pivotal tool to gauge the country's progress in fulfilling basic needs.
Ladies and gentlemen, India is today described as the bright spot in the global economy. It has emerged as one of the most attractive global investment destinations. This has been made possible by a series of sustained policy initiatives. More than 7,000, you'll be surprised, more than 7,000 reforms have been implemented to improve the ease of doing business. Processes have been simplified and made transparent. Government has repealed over 1,200 outdated laws.
India's welfare delivery mechanism is increasingly demonstrating a holistic and non-discriminatory approach, irrespective of the geographical location, social group, language, or the phase of socio-economic development. The government has been striving to provide basic amenities to all sections of the society, particularly focusing on the poorest 20%.
On May 26, 2023, the NDA government under Shri Narendra Modi completed 9 years of office. After being elected in 2014 and re-elected in 2019. The countdown to the next elections in 2024 has begun. From time to time, we have taken stock of the performance of the government. For the start of the 10th year is in
Jan Dhan, meanwhile, focuses on the extending of the low-cost banking services to underprivileged, marking a milestone in financial inclusions. This dovetails with mobile, the final pillar of the JAM Trinity, which harnesses India's widespread mobile usage to enhance the delivery of digital services. Furthermore, JAM has fueled India's digital payment revolution thanks to the unified payment interface. The streamlining financial transactions, it has also fortified the delivery of government benefits via direct benefit transfer, that is DBT system, minimizing leaks and ensuring benefits reach the intended beneficiaries.
Yes. India has taken steps in the last few years. Credit and women not having enough property or money or anything else to give us guarantee. I'm so happy to say that in 2014, I was the junior minister of finance, and that's when the financial inclusion program was launched in a major way. Prime Minister Modi's first line, and that line continues till today, is that it has to be a women-led development for India rather than just women-centric. And because of that, and because of the fact that women don't have credit access, and also in India it's customary that women, in case they have to go do a business, would take the gold which they have received as what we call as Sridan, meaning at the time of marriage, women are given some gold from their parents' families, if they can. If they can't, of course, they don't give them anything.
India's digital public infrastructure, that's DPI, and India's stack have sparked a dramatic transformation, showcasing an unparalleled futuristic vision of digital governance. These groundbreaking innovations have in fact turned the tide, reshaping the face of transactions with advanced digital identity verification and frictionless digital payments.
The top 5 emerging economies, India is a long way from becoming an economic superpower. However, India has shown impressive growth, but it lags behind its rival China. The history of Asia can be read by comparing the Indian, and Chinese economies. According to World Bank figures in chain dollars, in 1980, India's gross domestic product was 64% of China. By 2001, when China joined the World Trade Organization, India's economy was only 28% as large as China's. And, despite several years of rapid growth in the 21st century, by 2021, India's economy had fallen even further behind and equaled only 17% of the Chinese economy. That's because China's GDP growth is always higher than India's in the past. If India's economy had kept pace with China over the past 40 years,
Since 2014, the central government has transformed the education and health sectors, introducing the trailblazing National Education Policy 2020. It was a game changer, replacing a decade-old policy. It has reshaped India's education landscape in healthcare. The government unfurled the expansive Ayushman Bharat initiative. This ambitious plan shoulders hospitalization costs for India's poorest. Additionally, the government launched the Jan Aushadhi Kendras, a proactive measure to make quality medicines accessible and affordable for the public.
% over the last 5 years. And according to the CMIE, the labor force participation rate, which includes persons who are employed or seeking employment.
The introduction of RERA has catalyzed significant changes in India's real estate sector, sparking remarkable transformation. RERA has spotlighted transparency and accountability, imposing a non-negotiable responsibility on developers to deliver on their promises while strengthening buyer protection. The government has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to reform, manifesting in tangible transformations across a multitude of sectors.
The world's largest democracy would be 27% richer. It is not unusual in developing economies for a family's social standing to be enhanced by having its women remain at home. But India stands out, as its female labor force participation rate is well below those of the top 5 emerging economies. India is a long way from becoming an economic superpower.
That was our today's big story. For more news and updates, keep watching CVR English.